The Kepler Deep Space Research Station hung silently against the backdrop of the Carina Nebula, its arrays of sensors probing the cosmic depths. Dr. Sarah Chen stood at her workstation, reviewing the latest gravitational wave readings when an alert flashed across her screen. The numbers didn't make sense. A massive object had just appeared at the edge of their detection range, seemingly from nowhere. "Director Matthews," she called out, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "You need to see this." The station's director floated over in the zero-gravity environment, his weathered face illuminated by the holographic displays. The object was moving at impossible speeds, decelerating in ways that defied known physics. Before either of them could speak, more alerts began flooding in. Dozens of similar objects were appearing, their energy signatures unlike anything in human databases. "Get me a direct line to Earth Defense Command," Matthews ordered, his expression grim. "And someone wake up Dr. Kumar. We need his expertise on these readings." The next 48 hours became a blur of activity as humanity faced its first contact with an alien civilization. The objects were ships, massive vessels that dwarfed anything humans had built. Their design was organic, almost crystalline, with structures that seemed to flow and shift like liquid metal. Initial attempts at communication were met with silence. When the alien fleet reached Mars orbit, humanity held its breath. The United Earth government broadcast messages of peace in every known format, hoping to establish dialogue. The response came in the form of energy beams that cut through Mars' largest colony like paper, killing 10,000 colonists in seconds. Earth's defensive fleet mobilized immediately, but they were hopelessly outmatched. The alien vessels, which came to be known as the crystalline, possessed technology that seemed to operate on entirely different principles of physics. Their weapons phased through human shields as if they didn't exist, and their hulls absorbed or reflected everything humanity threw at them. "We need to evacuate the surface populations," General Maria Santos argued in the emergency council meeting. "We can't protect our cities from their weapons." But Dr. Chen, who had been brought in to advise the council, noticed something peculiar in the sensor data from the initial encounter. The crystalline ships, while incredibly advanced, showed patterns. Their attacks followed precise mathematical sequences. Their movements adhered to rigid geometrical formations. "They're too perfect," she realized, speaking up during a tactical analysis. "Every action, every response. It's like they're following a program. There's no adaptation, no creativity in their strategies." This observation proved crucial as humanity suffered defeat after defeat. Earth's cities burned, but human survivors began noticing weaknesses in the aliens' predictable patterns. Small guerrilla strikes succeeded where large military operations failed. Human creativity and unpredictability became our greatest assets. The turning point came during the Battle of Luna Base. Captain David Okafor, commanding a small fleet of retrofitted mining vessels, broke every rule of conventional space combat. He used the moon's debris field to launch chaotic, seemingly random attacks that confused the crystalline's perfect formations. His ships performed maneuvers that made no tactical sense, yet somehow worked. "They don't understand improvisation," Okafor reported after the successful defense of the base. "They can't handle chaos." This revelation sparked a fundamental shift in humanity's approach to the war. Dr. Chen and her team began developing new technologies that incorporated randomness and unpredictability into their very function. Quantum fluctuation drives, probability weapons, and chaos theory-based shield systems emerged from laboratories around the world. The first major victory came 3 months into the war. A fleet of small, agile Earth ships, equipped with the new quantum random systems, managed to destroy a crystalline dreadnought. The alien vessel's perfect defenses couldn't adapt to weapons that operated on principles of uncertainty. As the dust settled from that battle, humanity began to understand its unique advantage. The very things that made us primitive in comparison, our imperfection, our ability to act irrationally, our capacity for creative chaos, were exactly what the crystalline couldn't comprehend or counter. Dr. Chen stood once again at her workstation in the partially rebuilt Kepler station, watching the data streams from the ongoing conflicts. The war was far from over, but something had changed. Humanity had found its edge, not in superior technology or overwhelming force, but in the beautiful imperfection of the human spirit. "We're not winning because we're stronger," she wrote in her report to Earth Command. "We're winning because we're human. Our greatest weakness turned out to be our greatest strength." The crystalline war had only begun, but humanity had discovered something profound about itself in the process. In the face of perfect, unstoppable enemies, our flaws and chaos became our salvation. The question now was how to turn this understanding into final victory. The underground research facility beneath the Australian outback hummed with activity. 6 months had passed since humanity's discovery of their advantage against the crystalline forces, and the world's brightest minds had gathered in this hardened bunker to turn that advantage into victory. Dr. Kumar stood before a holographic display showing the neural patterns of both human and recovered crystalline technology. The alien patterns were beautiful in their symmetry. Perfect, predictable, unchanging. Next to them, human brainwaves appeared chaotic, ever-shifting, alive with possibility. "The crystalline aren't just methodical," he explained to the assembled team of scientists and military leaders. "They're fundamentally incapable of true randomness. Their entire civilization is built on perfect prediction and control." Captain Maya Rodriguez, fresh from a successful raid on a crystalline mining operation, leaned forward. "That's why our quantum weapons work so well. They can't predict where the hits will land." "Exactly," Kumar nodded, expanding the display to show battle footage. "But we've only scratched the surface. I believe we can do more than just exploit their weakness. We can use it to communicate with them." The room erupted in murmurs. Communication attempts had ceased months ago after hundreds of failed tries. The crystalline had shown no interest in dialogue, responding only with precise, devastating attacks. "Their language is mathematics," Kumar continued, undeterred. "But they understand only perfect equations. We need to show them something they've never seen before: mathematical chaos theory." Dr. Chen, who had been quietly observing from the back, stepped forward. "You want to teach them randomness. I want to force them to evolve," Kumar replied. "Their rigid perfection isn't just a weakness, it's a prison. They attack us because we represent everything they fear: uncertainty, change, evolution." The project that emerged from that meeting was called Operation Butterfly, named after the chaos theory principle, where tiny changes could cause massive, unpredictable effects. Teams of mathematicians and quantum physicists worked alongside artists and musicians, creating what they called chaos algorithms, mathematical sequences that started with perfect order but gradually introduced elements of randomness. The first test came 3 weeks later. During a crystalline attack on a seemingly defenseless research station, humans broadcast these chaos algorithms on all frequencies. The effect was immediate and startling. The alien ship's perfect formations wavered. Some vessels stopped completely, their crystalline surfaces rippling as if in distress. "They're trying to solve the equations," Chen observed, watching the data streams. "But they can't because the solutions keep changing randomly." The discovery led to a new generation of weapons, not designed to destroy, but to confuse and disrupt. Quantum field generators created zones of pure mathematical uncertainty. Human ships began carrying chaos bombs that released bursts of random data, corrupting the crystalline's perfect systems. But the most surprising breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Sarah Chen's teenage daughter, Lisa, was visiting the facility during a school break when she made an observation that changed everything. "They're like my music teacher," she said, watching footage of the crystalline ships. "He hates jazz because it doesn't follow strict rules. He only likes classical pieces where everything is precisely written." This casual comment sparked a revolutionary idea. Human scientists began incorporating musical elements into their chaos algorithms, not just random noise, but improvised jazz, freestyle rap, and experimental compositions. The crystalline response was unprecedented. Their ships began moving in new ways, showing signs of adaptation. We're not just fighting them, Chen realized. We're teaching them how to change. The war entered a new phase. Every encounter became a lesson in chaos and creativity. Some crystalline ships began showing signs of individuality, breaking from their perfect formations. Others seemed to develop unique patterns, as if learning to improvise. The breakthrough came during the Battle of Saturn's Rings. A human fleet led by Captain Rodriguez encountered a group of crystalline ships that didn't immediately attack. Instead, they broadcast their own version of a chaos algorithm, crude and simple, but undeniably an attempt at random creation. "They're learning," Kumar announced to the War Council, his voice filled with emotion. "They're beginning to understand that perfection isn't the only path. They're evolving." But not all of the crystalline embraced this change. As some of their ships began showing signs of creativity, others became more rigid, more aggressive. The alien fleet was dividing, and humanity found itself in the middle of what appeared to be an ideological war within the crystalline civilization. Dr. Chen stood in her lab, watching the latest battle footage. The crystalline ships that had learned to embrace chaos were now fighting alongside human vessels, their once perfect forms showing beautiful imperfections, their movements becoming more fluid and unpredictable. "We didn't just find a way to fight them," she wrote in her journal. "We found a way to free them from their own limitations. The question is, are we ready for what they might become?" The war was transforming both sides in ways no one could have predicted. Humanity's greatest victory wasn't destroying their enemy, but teaching them the beauty of imperfection. As the battle for the solar system raged on, a new possibility emerged, not just survival, but coexistence with a changing, evolving crystalline civilization. The quantum consciousness lab beneath Geneva hummed with an otherworldly energy as Dr. Kumar and his team prepared for their most ambitious experiment yet. They had spent months studying the recovered crystalline technology, particularly the fragments from ships that had begun showing signs of evolution. The crystalline structure isn't just their technology, Kumar explained to the gathered observers, including military leaders and scientists from around the world. It's their consciousness. Their ships aren't vessels, they're bodies. The holographic display showed the intricate lattice patterns of a crystalline ship fragment. Unlike the rigid, perfect structures they'd first encountered, this piece showed subtle variations, tiny imperfections that seemed to pulse with life. Captain Rodriguez, now promoted to fleet commander, studied the display intently. "You're saying they're alive?" "All of them. More than alive," Dr. Chen interjected, stepping forward. "They're a collective consciousness that somehow got trapped in perfect crystalline patterns. Their rigid behavior isn't just programming. It's their attempt to maintain what they see as ideal form." The revelation changed everything. The war wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about freeing a species from its self-imposed prison of perfection. But the crystalline civilization was deeply divided. The faction that had begun to embrace chaos and change, dubbed the Awakened by human scientists, fought desperately against their unchanged brethren, the Purists. Kumar's team had developed a radical theory. If the crystalline consciousness resided in their crystalline structure, perhaps humanity could help more of them awaken by introducing quantum uncertainty directly into their physical form. The device they created was called the quantum resonance inducer. It looked deceptively simple, a sphere of iridescent metal hovering in a containment field. But inside it generated patterns of quantum uncertainty that could theoretically resonate with crystalline consciousness. "Think of it like teaching them to dream," Kumar said. "Their rigid patterns are like a dreamless sleep. We're showing them that consciousness can exist in uncertainty." The first test exceeded all expectations. When activated near a captured crystalline ship fragment, the crystal structure began to change, its patterns becoming more fluid, more organic. But the real breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Lisa Chen, who had become an unofficial member of the research team, discovered she could influence the quantum patterns through music. Her improvisational jazz pieces, played through a quantum interface, created resonance patterns that the crystalline fragments responded to dramatically. "They're not just accepting the chaos," she explained, her eyes bright with excitement. "They're learning to create it themselves. It's like teaching them to make music." The discovery led to the development of massive quantum resonance arrays, installations that broadcast jazz-influenced quantum patterns into space. The effect on the crystalline fleet was immediate and profound. More ships began to awaken, their perfect formations dissolving into fluid creative patterns. But the purists reacted with unprecedented violence. They saw the quantum resonance as a corruption of their perfect nature and launched devastating attacks on the broadcast stations. The war entered its most dangerous phase as humanity and the awakened crystalline fought together against an enemy driven by existential fear. Fleet Commander Rodriguez led a bold mission to the heart of purist territory, commanding a mixed fleet of human and awakened ships. The human vessels carried quantum resonance inducers, while the awakened used their evolving abilities to create zones of creative chaos in space itself. "We're not just fighting for survival anymore," Rodriguez told her crews before the mission. "We're fighting for the right to be imperfect, to change, to grow. That's what makes us alive." The battle that followed was unlike anything in human history. The purest ships attacked with mechanical precision, but the combined human awakened fleet responded with orchestrated chaos. Ships moved in patterns based on jazz improvisations, their weapons firing in quantum random sequences that the purists couldn't predict. Dr. Chen and Kumar watched from the command center as Lisa performed a live jazz concert, her music feeding directly into the fleet's quantum resonance systems. The battlefield became a dance of order and chaos. Perfect crystal formations shattering into new, beautiful patterns. "Look at the energy readings," Chen whispered, pointing to her displays. The purest ships weren't being destroyed. They were transforming. The quantum resonance, amplified by the awakened ships, was reaching deep into their crystalline consciousness. One by one, purest ships began to change. Their rigid formations dissolve, their perfect surfaces developing unique patterns. The battle became a symphony of transformation, with Lisa's jazz improvisation guiding the quantum frequencies that awakened more and more of the crystalline consciousness. Kumar turned to Chen, his eyes wide with realization. "We're not just teaching them chaos," he said. "We're teaching them freedom. The freedom to choose between order and chaos, to find their own balance." As the transformed ships joined the fleet, humanity glimpsed a future they hadn't dared imagine. One where human creativity and crystalline consciousness could combine to explore the universe in ways neither species could achieve alone. But the war wasn't over. The most devoted purists had retreated to their home system, preparing for a final stand to preserve their version of perfection. Humanity and their awakened allies now faced their greatest challenge: how to bring enlightenment to those who saw enlightenment itself as corruption. The combined human awakened fleet assembled at the edge of the Orion Arm, preparing for their final push into purest space. The crystalline homeworld pulsed with rigid energy patterns that were visible even from this distance, a perfect geometric sphere that seemed to deny the very concept of chaos. Fleet Commander Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the flagship Prometheus, watching the quantum readouts from their latest scout reports. The purists had transformed their home system into a fortress of absolute order. Every asteroid, every piece of space debris had been arranged in mathematically perfect orbits. "They turned their entire system into a weapon," Dr. Kumar observed, his holographic presence flickering beside her. Back on Earth, he and his team worked tirelessly to understand the final pieces of the puzzle. The patterns they're generating. They're trying to create a zone of pure mathematical certainty, a space where quantum uncertainty cannot exist. Dr. Chen's voice joined the discussion from her station at the quantum physics lab. If they succeed, neither our weapons nor the Awakened's abilities will function within their space. We'll be helpless. The situation seemed impossible. A frontal assault would be suicide. The Purists' defenses were not just perfect. They were becoming more perfect by the hour, their mathematical patterns spreading like a virus through space itself. But Lisa Chen, now officially part of the science team despite her young age, saw something everyone else had missed. They're not just defending, she said, studying the musical patterns she'd extracted from the quantum readings. They're composing. This is a symphony of order. Her observation sparked an idea so radical that even the Awakened were initially skeptical. Instead of fighting the Purists' perfect patterns, they would join them, but with a twist that only humans could conceive. Every symphony needs a crescendo, Lisa explained, her fingers dancing across her quantum interface. What if we help them achieve their perfect order, but introduce our chaos at the exact moment of completion? The plan that emerged was called Operation Harmony. The human fleet would carry massive quantum amplifiers, not to generate chaos, but to strengthen the Purists' patterns of order. The Awakened ships would do the same, adding their own crystalline energy to the mix. We're going to help them build their perfect system, Rodriguez explained to her crews. And in doing so, we'll show them that even perfect order contains the seeds of chaos. The operation began with the fleet split into precisely calculated positions, each ship broadcasting frequencies that reinforced the Purists' mathematical patterns. At first, the Purists were confused by this apparent surrender to order. Then, as they realized their patterns were growing stronger, they began to accept the fleet's presence. Dr. Kumar monitored the quantum readings from Earth, watching as the perfect patterns grew more and more intense. The energy levels are off the scale, he reported. They're achieving what they always wanted, a space of pure mathematical certainty. But Lisa had prepared something special for this moment. As the patterns reached their peak, she began to play. Not jazz this time, but a classical piece. Perfect, ordered, mathematical. The Purists' defenses welcomed these new patterns, incorporating them into their symphony of order. Then, at the precise moment when the patterns achieved perfect harmony, Lisa introduced a single improvisational note, one tiny quantum of chaos in an ocean of perfect order. The effect was beyond anything they had anticipated. The perfect patterns didn't shatter. They transformed. Like a crystal catching light from a new angle, the mathematical certainty revealed infinite possibilities within itself. The Purists' own drive for perfection had made them exquisitely sensitive to even the smallest variation. They're seeing it, Chen whispered, watching the readings. They're seeing that perfect order and chaos aren't opposites. They're the same thing viewed from different angles. The crystalline homeworld itself began to change. The rigid geometric patterns flowered into fractals, perfect mathematical structures that contained infinite complexity. The Purists' consciousness, expanded to its ultimate expression of order, finally understood that true perfection included chaos. Ships that had been weapons of perfect destruction became works of living art. The mathematical patterns that had been meant to exclude uncertainty became expressions of infinite possibility. The Purists hadn't been defeated. They had achieved their goal of perfect order, only to discover that perfect order was indistinguishable from perfect chaos. Fleet Commander Rodriguez watched as the transformed Purist ships approached the fleet, their crystalline surfaces now showing the same beautiful imperfections as their awakened brethren. They needed to reach the limits of order to understand chaos, she realized. Just as we needed to face perfect order to understand ourselves better. But as the celebration began, Dr. Kumar noticed something in the quantum readings that gave him pause. The transformation had released energies unlike anything they'd ever seen. As the patterns of order and chaos merged across the crystalline home system, ripples of change began spreading through space itself. The war was over, but something even more extraordinary was beginning. Humanity and the crystalline, both awakened and transformed Purists, would need to work together to understand the consequences of their harmony. 1 year after Operation Harmony, The Sol system had become something unprecedented in human history. Crystalline structures orbited Earth like new moons, their surfaces constantly shifting between perfect geometric patterns and flowing organic shapes. They were more than stations or habitats. They were living interfaces between human and crystalline consciousness. Dr. Chen stood in the new Quantum Harmony Center, watching her daughter Lisa conduct what had become known as a bridge symphony. Human musicians played alongside crystalline resonance patterns, creating music that existed simultaneously as mathematical equations and pure artistic expression. "We didn't just end a war," Kumar said, joining her at the observation window. "We helped birth a new form of consciousness." The quantum readings from the transformed crystalline system had revealed something extraordinary. The merger of perfect order and chaos had created a cascade effect through space-time itself. Fleet Commander Rodriguez, now Admiral of the Joint Human Crystalline Exploration Fleet, had just returned from the first expedition into this changed space. "The barriers between thought and reality are different out there," she reported to the United Earth Council. "The crystalline's mathematical patterns, combined with human creativity, have altered the fundamental laws of physics in ways we're only beginning to understand." The changes were most evident in the regions where the final battle had taken place. Space itself seemed more fluid, more responsive to conscious intention. Ships traveling through these areas reported phenomena that defied traditional physics. Thoughts manifesting as energy patterns, quantum states responding to emotional resonance. But it was Lisa Chen who first grasped the true significance of what they had created. During a bridge symphony, she noticed that the music wasn't just affecting the crystalline structures, it was changing the quantum fabric of space around Earth. "We're not just making music," she explained to the assembled scientists and crystalline representatives. "We're teaching the universe itself to dream." The implications were staggering. The combination of human creativity and crystalline mathematical precision had unlocked something fundamental about the nature of reality. The universe, it seemed, had always been capable of this fluid state where thought and matter, order and chaos, could dance together. Humanity had simply helped the crystalline remember this truth, and in doing so, remembered it themselves. New technologies emerged from this understanding. Ships powered by quantum harmony could travel in ways that made traditional faster-than-light drives look primitive. Hybrid consciousness interfaces allowed humans and crystalline to share experiences directly, leading to exponential advances in both sciences and arts. But perhaps the most profound change was philosophical. The rigid distinction between organic and artificial, order and chaos, conscious and unconscious, began to dissolve. The crystalline learned to appreciate the beauty of imperfection, while humans gained a deeper understanding of the mathematical patterns underlying reality. Dr. Kumar spent his final years developing what he called the consciousness evolution theory. He proposed that the universe itself was evolving toward a state where consciousness and reality were more directly connected, and that the human crystalline synthesis had accelerated this natural process. "We didn't just solve a conflict between species," he wrote in his last paper. "We helped the universe remember something it had forgotten about itself." 20 years after first contact, humanity had spread throughout the galaxy, not as conquerors or refugees, but as artists and explorers. Each new star system they encountered was an opportunity to create new harmonies between order and chaos, consciousness and reality. The original crystalline homeworld had become a living university, where both species studied the art of quantum harmony. Its perfect geometric patterns now flowed with organic grace, while Earth's cities incorporated crystalline structures that pulsed with mathematical music. Lisa Chen, now Dr. Chen herself, stood on the observation deck of the Quantum Harmony Institute she had founded. Below her, a new generation of human and crystalline students learned to play the music of reality itself. The universe, they had discovered, was neither a perfect crystal nor a chaos of random chance. It was a symphony waiting to be played. In trying to bridge the gap between our species, she wrote in her memoir, "We discovered that the real bridge was between the universe's dream of perfect order and its need for creative chaos. Humanity's gift wasn't just our creativity or our resilience. It was our ability to show others that imperfection and perfection are just different notes in the same cosmic song. The quantum ripples from that first transformation continued to spread through space, changing everything they touched. But unlike the rigid perfection the purists had sought, or the pure chaos they had feared, these changes brought harmony, a dynamic balance between order and possibility. And in the depths of space, where the boundaries between thought and reality had grown most thin, new forms of consciousness were awakening. The universe itself seemed to be learning from the example of humanity and the crystalline, discovering its own capacity for both perfect mathematics and infinite creativity. The stars themselves had begun to sing new songs, and humanity, for all its flaws and dreams, had helped compose the first notes of a universal symphony.